today, what's going on in Baltimore? Breaking news on two different fronts there today. The Reverend Walter Jackson from West Virginia joins us, along with David Housholder from Robinwood Church in California. Live here on The View from a Pew.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 244-0077. That's 244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. We're going to date this program because some of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be out of date probably by the end of the weekend or first of next week. So that's the best way to do it. 1st of May. 1st of May. Frank, I haven't seen a May Day basket.
I got you a popcorn from the bank and a couple of watermelon suckers.
You did?
Yes.
Out there?
Counter.
Well, thank you. What'd you get, Bob?
He can have a couple of them, too. I got 2 bags and about 6 suckers.
What'd you get, Ryan?
Ryan's out of luck.
Oh, Ryan, that's not fair at all. Now he's got a birdie on his lip. All right, we got a great show planned today. I want to introduce you to 2 gentlemen. One I've never met. In fact, I don't. Walter, have we ever even spoken to each other?
Only when I called in when you interviewed David back during the blizzards of year.
Yeah, that's right. You called in. And you are a pastor at a Wainwright Baptist Church in Jefferson County, West Virginia.
That's correct, in the city of Charlestown.
In the city of Charleston. Charlestown.
Yeah.
Different than Charleston.
Yes, different than Charleston. Charlestown is about an hour and a half from both D.C. and from Baltimore.
Oh, my. So you're real close there.
Yes.
All right. Mm-hmm. And you are an African-American man.
That's right.
And David Housholder is here from Robinwood Church out at Huntington Beach, California. And you're an adult white male.
I'm an adult white male, and I am transmitting from a trailer in the Sonoran Desert.
Adult German white male.
A trailer? What have you left your beautiful wife, Wendy, and you're hanging out there in the desert with the snakes?
Wendy and I have a 1958 New Moon trailer, and we're hanging out here in the desert, which we love doing. We love hiking, biking, doing all that stuff. It's beautiful out here.
Wow. Do you have Well, you don't have electricity.
We do where we are right now, and so I'm able to call you. I'm close enough to a cell tower, but most of where I am around here, I don't have cell reception. So we're going coast to coast today. You got Walter on the East Coast, you got me on the West Coast. We got whole country covered.
We do, and then us folks right here in the middle of the United States in Iowa. So now, David, have you had any? Have you been watching the TV at all? Do you know what's going on over there in Baltimore?
I do know what's going on, and what I would love to do, if it's okay with you, Mac, is to ask Walter to paint a picture of Baltimore. I've never been to Baltimore. I don't even know what it looks like. What's the vibe like on a normal day in Baltimore? What's the ethnic makeup? Is it a rich city, a poor city? What is it? Give us a picture so we can know what we're talking about here.
Well, Baltimore, the city itself, is kind of a mix of people. It's only 30 minutes from D.C. You travel north from D.C. on the Baltimore-Washington Parkway or 95, and you're there in 30 minutes, and maybe about 15 on the Acela train. I had to get that in. But it's a unique city, a beautiful city. We used to love to go there on Sundays sometime after church. We'd ride over to Baltimore, take a ride. And one of the things that was so fascinating to me was the marble steps. And back at that time in the 50s, I remember my mother telling me about how Baltimore was noted for its marble steps and how people used to come out of their row houses and scrub the marble steps so that they were just spick and span. And that's one of the things that I remember from my childhood over there. And it's a mix-up of several ethnic groups, not quite as much as it was in the 50s, but it's kind of like D.C. There's been some redevelopment, some growth, and, it's a multicultural city. There are pockets where it's uniquely African American. There are pockets where there's Polish and other ethnic groups, Italian. There's quite a mix in that whole area there. I travel down there on occasions to go to meetings at the American Baptist Churches of the South, which has its headquarters in Baltimore. And I know several of the pastors there, and what I understand from the news was that there were some pastors that had gotten together and had a press conference. I have not been able to watch that, and because I wanted to find out if it were a couple of the pastors that I know personally. I do know that in that particular area, when they mentioned one of the streets, there's one of the churches in the convention that I'm in, which is the American Baptist Churches region of the South. We have about 134 churches across the southern United States. They're predominantly African American, but it's also it is multicultural, but predominantly African American. Largest area of American Baptist USA. And the pastor that I know in that area who pastors the church in that area pastors Providence Baptist Church. Now, whether he was one of the ones that was on that news conference or not, I don't know. I haven't been able to reach anyone to find out. But I was quite concerned when all of this came about because I do know people there. Spent a lot of time as a child there. I still spend a lot of time there because I'm a member of the Baltimore Streetcar Museum, and I go there quite frequently to operate antique trolley cars.
Reverend Walter Jackson III, that's his voice you're listening to. He is the pastor at Wainwright Baptist Church in Jefferson County, West Virginia, and he's about 30 minutes from Baltimore. Clear on the other side of the world, out where the rattlesnakes hang out, is Pastor David Housholder, as him and his lovely bride, Wendy, are out. Are you even at a campground, or are you literally just in the middle of the desert?
We are. We're at what you could almost call an RV park.
An RV park. Frank, you had a question?
Hey, just a quick question, Walter. This is the verse. Did I hear right that Baltimore is about 80 miles square? 80 square miles?
That is about right.
Pretty good large city.
Mm-hmm. It's larger than Washington, D.C., and Washington is a half hour from D.C. I live an hour and a half from D.C. And Baltimore. Yeah.
All right. But there's a lot of people that work in D.C. that live in Baltimore.
Yes, and there's a lot of people that live here in Jefferson County, Berkeley County, West Virginia, that commute to both Baltimore and Washington via the MARC train, some drive. So, we have commuters that commute into work from this area to Baltimore every day.
What percentage of Baltimore is African American or minority, Walter?
Now, I don't have the percentages now. I know at one point, I would say it was similar to D.C., which was predominantly, I don't have the percentages. I think that is changing some, but I don't have the percentages, so I can't really address that issue.
All right, now, Walter, I want you to promise me something, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If myself or Frank or David or Bob or anybody says something that you think has a racist tone,
mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me, okay?
Okay.
Because I don't think I'm a racist, but yet I can't say I'm not aware of race. Mm-hmm. I can't. I mean, I have to say that and you probably saw it on my Facebook page Monday when I'm jumping around 5 or 6 networks watching all this horror going on in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. I did
mm-hmm.
make the comment on Facebook that I don't see any white people. Now, I didn't mean that as a racist comment, but I certainly don't want to be disrespectful to you or anybody by making what you would call a racist comment. So I just want to give you permission to jump in, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, Housholder, I'm just going to call you Whitey.
Oh, Lord.
You can call me anything you want to call.
Okay.
I'm impossible to offend.
That's racist.
Is that racist? Oh, okay.
That's racist.
Honky?
Thank you, brother.
Can I call him Honky Householder? HH?
No, that's even more racist.
Okay.
In my book, those two words in my book are just about the same as another word referring to African Americans, which I hope one day is eliminated from everybody's vocabulary.
Yeah, me too. I do too, because I don't like that word. I've never been comfortable hearing that word. I can remember back in high school when I was, this is going to be embarrassing, but I was hanging around at the junkyard. Okay? I was rebuilding a 37 Ford, and I needed some parts, so I went down to the junkyard, which was not my normal place of hanging out, and somebody used the N-word. So I'm probably 15, 16, and somebody used the N-word, and I thought, well, that's not right. That's not nice at all. And the other one I hope we get rid of it is the FAG, and then add a couple letters referring to people who are different sexual identity than I am.
Yeah,
we got to get rid of those words.
Yes, and my concern is any words like that address and are derogatory towards any person's ethnic group, color, preference, sexual preference, or nation of origin. Any of those words, they need to, if it's a derogatory connotation to it, they need to be eliminated, because what I see is those are some of the things that continue to keep us divided as a country. And as long as that stuff perpetuates, it's going to continue to go on.
Hey.
And that really bothers me. And I'll tell you this, when I hear African Americans use the N-word, I grew up in the 50s. That bothers me. I said, because we struggled so hard to get that word out of the vocabulary, to stop having other ethnic groups refer to us with that term. Why then do you think it's all right for us to use it with each other and in the rap music, as well as like calling women the B word? I think anything that does anything derogatory like that is just demeaning. It's degrading. It's not Christian. God is not pleased with that.
Hey, Walter, this is the verse again. I'm on board with what you just said about taking it out of our vernacular. But what do you think the chances are of getting Chris Rock and someone like Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN reporter, who basically said you can't put black people in the same soup bowl with whites? So he wants to eliminate it, but he still wants to reserve its use for the black community. So you can't have it both ways. You got to get us all on board or nobody on board, because you can't have half the people using it and half the people not.
Exactly. I mean, because if you're going to continue to use, single groups out by certain words and say, okay, we're not going to use these words here, but we're going to reserve the right to use them for this group over here, then you're still creating a division.
Absolutely.
And I have a real problem with that scripturally.
Now, when somebody in your church, when a young black man in your church uses that word, how does he justify it?
There is no justification, and quite frankly, though, I've not heard it. I've not heard it in my church.
Good.
I've not heard it in my church, and I'm glad of it, because if I had, I would be looking very shocked at some of the people who, would do that. I mean, it's just not something that I think, I've just not heard it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons is, I have an older congregation, and many of them grew up in the 50s or before, and they know how that word was used. They know how it was to have to go to the back door of a restaurant because you couldn't be served in the front of the restaurant. How, an undertaker who's no longer with us, he's gone on to wherever, made comments about, dealing with African Americans in funerals.
All right, Walter, you hang on. We'll be right back. We're coming back with David Housholder and Walter Jackson here on The Truth. Thanks for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Welcome back, 21 minutes after the hour. Reminder, this will be the last day that The View from a Pew is on from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. This is our swan song for 3 p.m. start time. Beginning Monday, The View from a Pew will be live at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 hour earlier. And from 3 to 5, the incredible Steve Dace live on your drive home right here on The Truth 99.3. All right, in Jefferson County, West Virginia, about an hour out of Baltimore, I've got the Reverend Walter Jackson III, who is a would you call yourself a pastor or a reverend, or what are you called?
Well, when I sign my name, it's Reverend Walter Jackson, but I'm actually a pastor. I've been pastor of Wainwright for 34 and a half years. December will make 35 years.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And on the other side of the country is Pastor David Housholder, who has a church in Huntington Beach, California called Robinwood. Now, David, I want to go to you. Tell me what racial tensions, if any, are felt in Huntington Beach, California, and in your general area. Because you're what, are you like an hour south of L.A.?
Well, LA is one big mess of people. It's 17 million people, and we'd be part of that. It's called Orange County. It's just one big, gigantic megalopolis. And it's very diverse ethnically. Orange County, where we live, has 3 million people. It's about a third Asian, about a third Latino, and about a third Anglo, and I would consider myself an Anglo where I am. and they get along real well. There's not a lot of tension in Orange County. Up in Los Angeles County, there's a larger African American population, but that's been decreasing for a long time as diversification continues in Los Angeles. So the tensions you saw in the Watts riots and the Rodney King riots they've been dropping for decades. So there's less and less of that, definitely. So it's not so much out here, but people talk about what's happening in Baltimore and other places a lot because it's on the news. And it's pretty shocking to see these pictures of violence in our own country.
Hey, David and Walter, this is the verse again. This question kind of goes out for both of you. Jump in whenever you want. But I may not be considered the brightest bulb in the shed at times, but this current mayor, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, is just so far out of her depth. And it kind of reminds me of what we get in this country when we vote just based on race and gender. And this is me taking an opportunity to take a shot at Hillary Clinton. Don't just vote for a woman because she's a woman. Make sure she's a good woman. But there's a lot of capable black women in the country, but this Rawlings Blake is not one of them. And I really applaud this Mrs. Toya Graham, who was the lady who was caught on tape, who grabbed her 16-year-old and slapped him upside the head and told him to get home. And apparently this woman is being charged now by Human Services for abuse to this kid. So we need to make Mrs. Toya Graham mayor of Baltimore. We need a take charge woman like that to get a hold of the city.
Okay, that was a statement. What's your question?
The question is, do you think that that this woman...
do you agree with Frank?
Do you believe that Stephanie Rawlings Blake is just out of her depth here?
Well, I don't know of her that well. I'm not familiar that much with Baltimore politics. But I think everybody around the country saw what happened with Miss Graham and her son. Now, I will tell you the way I was raised as an African American and the way most African Americans I know my age were raised. My parents, if your parents saw you do something that was wrong and they told you and they meant it, I will go to jail before I let you make an idiot of yourself. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, this is a woman that has gone old school on her son to let him know, I told you before you left home, you go to school and come home. He defied his mother. That's number one. One of the problems is, yes, there are abuse situations. I'm a former foster parent. I did that for about 10 years, and I saw some of the horrible things that people did to their children. What she did, in my book, was not abuse. I think that, and I have issues with the foster care system, which that's a whole nother ballgame I don't really want to get into. But I think that the system itself, nationwide, has issues. And, there are people that get away with real legitimate cases of abuse. And then people who are correcting their children, scripturally the way it's supposed to be done, they're not abusive. They don't leave marks or anything like that. But they correct their children, and they're taken to task as though they have boiled them in oil. And I have issues with that. Now, I saw an article last night that a friend of mine sent to me on Facebook about what the Washington Post had to say about that whole situation. And yes, there are some other underlying issues that go way back into slavery and before about corporal punishment on blacks. And the way the article alluded to was that before the whole world, she embarrassed this kid, and she's left in a scar that'll be there for his life. Now, it depends on how you look at it. You might look at it that way, yeah, but I tell you, I look at it in the way that that's something he'll think about again before he goes and takes part in something that could land him in jail. Because every African-American parent I know, that's one fear, that they don't want their children to end up in jail, because that means, number one, that's one less male African-American that can make a positive difference in society, and we have worked very hard to be accepted on the same footing as everybody else. And when that happens, that weakens that whole process. All right? The other thing is that I look at is with that whole situation, people might have said, well, she did a great job. She got her son. But what about all the other parents that did nothing? What about all the other parents that did no raising of their children when they were young, so that when they get that age, they don't have to do what she did?
Amen.
Reverend Walter Jackson III is one of my special guests today. He is the Baptist pastor in Wainwright Baptist Church in Jefferson County, West Virginia, and on the other side of the world, out in the desert in the middle of dry California, Pastor David Housholder from Robinwood Church. Go ahead. I think, David, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think it's a great question you ask about the mayor thing. I was in Rotterdam in Holland, where my wife is from, in January, and there were some ethnic tensions there with some Islamic riots throughout Europe at the time, and people were really kind of upset about that. And the same kind of thing is going on here, a little bit different, but same kind of vibe. And the mayor of Rotterdam, yes, this question about this mayor out of her depth, totally, I agree with you. This mayor of Rotterdam, who happens to be a Muslim, and was elected not because he's a Muslim. He's elected there's a minority of Muslims in Rotterdam. He was elected because he takes charge. He got up in front of the whole city, and there's a big crowd of people. He stood on the city hall, and he said, "You Muslims who've come to Europe have no right to act like this. If you want to act like this and break stuff and loot things," he used really rough, coarse language. Get the fill in the blank. I mean, as coarse as you can imagine. Get out of this continent. And he was applauded by everyone in all of Europe. I mean, he was all the editorials, everybody else, because he took charge.
Well, apparently this mayor, the police are saying, gave a stand-down order, and she was caught on tape saying that they was going to give these individuals room, those who sought to destroy, she was going to give them room to destroy, and she automatically come out the next day and said that the media had twisted her words, and they got her on tape on the cloud somewhere saying this, and they've showed the tape over and over and over again. But this was just, I suppose they were so sensitive over the, I assume they were so sensitive over the Ferguson situation, but she just totally dropped the ball.
But you see, the main thing you do as a leader of a town, of a city, is your main job is to keep peace and make sure people don't hurt each other and take each other's stuff. I mean, that's the most basic part of your job. The rest is all details. If you can't maintain law and order in your town, then, you shouldn't be the mayor. And this guy in Rotterdam, he just took charge, and it was amazing to see.
Well, and on the other hand, too, you also had for the first time in the history anywhere, and I hope this is what I heard and saw is legitimate, and that others pick up this ball and run with it. You had gang members from different gangs, the Crips, the Bloods, and there's another group that came together and they said, okay, we're laying our differences down, and we need to go out here and protect these businesses, form a line between the police. They were construed as part of the problem. And in fact, what the guy was saying, and they went to a church in Baltimore and had a news conference, and they were saying that, no, we were out there trying to put a line between us, between the people and the police, the people who were causing the problem, and tell these young folks, go home. You don't need to be doing this. And they said, we put our differences aside. We're not going to be killing each other. We're not going to be doing this anymore. So to me, if that's true, they were setting an example that needs to be followed across the nation. Now, Baltimore has a history of having issues when it comes to police brutality against people of color. And I was a victim of that in Prince George's County, about 30 years ago, and riding a bicycle up a hill, and the policeman stopped and looked at me. I nodded at him. He backed the car across 3 lanes of traffic, pointed the car at me, got out, and pointed his gun at me and said, "Don't move." Well, I'm thinking, I'm riding a bicycle uphill from taking a 20-mile bike ride, and my response was, what have I done? All right? The next thing I know, I'm laying down on the ground, and if I had not kept my calm, I wouldn't be here today. And so I was so angry, but I said, I got to keep calm, and I just kept looking for names. And the policemen who were there, I looked at their names. And in the meantime, there's all of these European Americans and a few African Americans and a couple of Oriental people that gathered around watching this situation, not knowing what's going on, and they're thinking, here is a criminal. Now, what the cop told me, that a High's convenience store had just been robbed down the street, and I fit the description down to a T. I asked him, I said, are you serious? And he says, yes, I'm serious. And I said, and riding a bicycle? Well, he had no answer. So when they said, well, we're going to bring the person from the store up to identify you. Do you mind? I'm thinking, no, I don't. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because what if they are going to say, that's the one? And I know I've been nowhere near a High store.
Walter Jackson III is my guest. He's live in Jefferson County, West Virginia. He's a Baptist pastor there, 35 years at Wainwright Baptist Church. On the other end of the country, Pastor David Housholder from Robinwood Church in Huntington Beach, California. We're coming back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 22 minutes for the top of the hour here on Friday, the first day of May. This reminder, 1, 2, 3 days from right now, Monday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, will be the new slot for The View from a Pew with Frank and I and Bob. And then from 3 to 5, Steve Deace Live. So a new lineup for you on Monday. The new power for the radio station, the new expanded listenership area, which will go from about Newton East to Adair, west, probably up by the Boondocks North on 35 and then south to about Lucas County. So it's about a 60, 65-mile radius. That'll come later on in May or 1st of June. If you ever want to be bored to death, I'll tell you the electronics and the engineering of moving a radio station signal 17 and a half miles southeast of its hometown and all the things that go with it. I give kudos to Chris Roloff and Mike Carbone and all the people who are doing this on a daily basis. This is the 4th time I've been involved with a station moving like this, and this is the first time it hasn't involved power and greed for me. Any other time I've moved a radio station into Des Moines, it's because I want to knock off my competitor, I want to bring the revenues up, I want to bring the profits up, and I want to do it for me. This is the first time in my life I've ever done it for Jesus. And I got to tell you, it feels good, but I'm glad somebody else is doing all the work because this is not an easy deal. But thankfully for you, the listener, and all those folks that support this radio station, we call you our tent makers. We appreciate all you do for us. We're talking about the Baltimore situation and race relations in general. In Jefferson County, West Virginia, about an hour outside of Baltimore, is the Reverend Walter Jackson III. He's been the pastor of Wainwright Baptist Church for almost 35 years. As far west as we can go, we have Pastor David Housholder in the desert of California. His church is called Robinwood Church, and it's in Huntington Beach, California. Now, a couple of updates on this, and maybe both of you already know this, but Toya Graham, who is the mother that was seen slapping her child upside the head for participating in this, is being investigated by Child Protective Services of Baltimore. There are people that are saying what she did was abusive and it equals child neglect. Then the 6 officers that were involved one way or another in transporting Freddie Gray, the young man who died, and they say died because of the police brutality, the 6 policemen have been charged with homicide. Some of them with murder 1, some of them just being associated with. So a lot of things happening there today around this trial and around this terrible incident. Now, Walter, here's my question for you. And again, I gave you permission to call me out if I make a racist statement because I trust you on this. But I keep hearing that all these number of black men are being persecuted and are being arrested, and there's more blacks than whites and get arrested, and everybody's calling that police brutality, and they're saying that they're picking on them because of the color of their skin. Well, in a city like Baltimore, aren't most of the crimes done? Since the population is primarily black, isn't it just true to fact that most of the crimes are going to be conducted by young black males?
Well, that same thing could be said in a community that's predominantly white. Most of your crimes are probably going to be done by whites. So that part of it, a criminal, to me, a criminal is a criminal. If you break the law, you break the law. All right? But there is a history of inequity in dispensing justice and fairness within the court system and within the police. I mean, even in the Ferguson situation, they had done some research and found that African Americans were more prone to have certain things happen to them and by the police department And those kinds of same things have happened in Baltimore. Baltimore does have a history of, over the years, having some issues like that. Just as I mentioned, the issue that I had in Prince George's County. But my whole concern is the only way to solve those issues is, number one, there has to be honest communication across the board with all involved. That's number one. And I don't see that happening anywhere in the country, and that frightens me. Because there's a lot of things that we just turn our backs to, and we said, okay, leave it alone. That's their problem. It'll go away. But I'm sorry, this is our nation, all of us. And we, as a people, all of us, no matter what kind of tan we have on our skin or the lack thereof, we all need to sit down and reason together, solve our differences, because at the end of the day, when they lower the flag, they're lowering the same American flag over all of us. And that's the thing that frightens me, because I think if we don't get that part together, then we're endangering ourselves as a nation. And the thing that keeps coming to me is the scripture in First Chronicles, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. That has been ringing in my ears, because I'm thinking we as a nation are at that place. We need to humble ourselves and start, number one, getting along, start working together, and making a difference, so that, you're not saying we're going to solve all of our issues, but at least be willing to try.
Amen, brother.
David, what do you see out there?
Well, here, let me paint you a picture based on what Walter said, having to do with California. Now, if you look at South Central LA, which is predominantly African American, and you look at the University of Southern California, USC, which is a expensive private school, right in the middle of all that. USC, we jokingly say, stands for University of Spoiled Children. So we have USC and South Central right together. USC is predominantly white and Asian. You have African American South Central. Now, our prison industry in California is the biggest industry in the state, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. And it's got a huge lobby. And they have gobs of employees, and their guards make $115,000 a year. Mm-hmm. It's a huge industry. And that industry needs to eat. It needs inmates. So now if you're a police force and you're in South Central, there's drug use happening on Friday and Saturday nights at USC, and there's drug use happening in South Central. Which is the easiest neighborhood in which you can get a conviction? The neighborhood without the rich dads. You just comb the neighborhood for young, misbehaving young men and fill the jails with them. You go to USC, you'll never get those guys in jail, because their daddies will get lawyers and get them off. They don't even bother.
So justice is more about green.
It is. Follow the money.
And David's right. David is absolutely right, because it's a green power issue. And if you've got the money, then you can get a slap on the wrist if you've got enough money, or you can get a minimized sentence in some low security place.
Community service, sure. But if you're a kid without a dad around in an urban neighborhood, and you can make $9 an hour working at Burger King, or you can make a whole lot more in the drug trade, how long are you going to be able to resist that without a dad to put you through school or anything else? And you're going, what am I going to do here? I'm not justifying them getting the drug trade. All I'm saying is there's just as much drugs being used at USC as there is in South Central, and the cops wouldn't touch USC.
All right,
it does keep the prison.
I'm going to take a break here, our last break. We'll come back in 2 minutes, and then we'll get final comments from the Reverend Walter Jackson from West Virginia and Pastor David Housholder from Huntington Beach, California. Frank's here, Ryan's here, Bob's here, I'm here, and I thank you for listening to The Truth. 99.3, powered by webcast1live.com.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Thank you very much. 10 before the top of the hour. I always feel like Elvis. Thank you very much. 10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then coming up at 4:03, Pastor Mike Mudloff with Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Michael Mudloff will begin his show at high noon. I call Paul Harvey time. Starting this coming Monday, May 4th. That's the new lineup. We've got Jay Seklow at 11 o'clock, Michael Mudloff at noon, Dr. Michael Brown at 1, and then Frank and I and Bob at 2, and then Steve Dace from 3 to 5. All right. The Reverend Walter Jackson III is live from Jefferson County, West Virginia, where he has been the pastor at Wainwright Baptist Church almost 35 years. And Pastor David Housholder on the other side of the world in California, and he is a pastor at Robinwood Church. So, gentlemen, the conclusion is what? How do we as a country, how do we ever escape this divide among people of color? David, you go first.
I got four things. Four things we can do. One, roll back the militarization of police. So we used to have Andy Griffith. Now we have shock troops from Desert Storm in our streets. We got Irvine, California, with almost no crime, and they've got a SWAT team and a gigantic tank. I mean, we've really gone too far with this, and it creates an adversarial situation. We need to bring back Andy Griffith. That's number one. Number two, we need to stop the war on drugs. The war on drugs is being used to keep the jails full because the crime rate is dropping. And it's none of the government's business what people eat, drink, or put in their bodies. It's a free country, and it should be a personal responsibility issue. The war on drugs creates all kinds of issues in impoverished neighborhoods. Number three, the breakdown of the family. Why is the dad going after this kid? Why does the mom have to go out there and do this? The breakdown of the family, and there's plenty of blame to go around for that one. The welfare system, personal responsibility, whatever. But we have to keep families together. We have to try to do that best we can. Number four, I talked about it earlier, the feeding of the prison industry with a dropping crime rate. The police are incentivized to comb poor neighborhoods for people to fill the system. And you're looking at kids here in Baltimore from over-combed neighborhoods. And there is adversarial stuff going on there because of that. They're getting tired of getting picked on in that way. So all that being said, though, there is no excuse for looting, ever, ever, ever. And you got to take charge now when that happens. You can't let people initiate aggression, and you can't let people break things and take people's stuff. That's just as simple as it gets.
All right, Walter.
And I think David is absolutely right because, number one, you've got to make sure that across the board we work at maintaining the nuclear family. We have to revisit how we handle the prison system, because it is big business. Even the concessions are privately owned. The other thing that has to happen, and I can't emphasize it enough, is people have to be willing to sit down and honestly talk to each other about their problems. And about the issues that we need to address, without pointing fingers and blaming and going back and accusing folks for what happened 150 years ago. Yes, there was slavery. Yes, it's a blight in our country's history. Okay, let's move beyond that. How do we erase the scars that have affected all of us? Because that is probably the main issue. Those scars still resist, and there are things that need to be done to give everybody a level playing field. And I think the other thing is we need to address the greed that has brought a lot of this on. A lot of this was created by greed. We'll make money off of scaring people out of neighborhoods, and we can resell the houses at a higher price and make more money off of people who can't really afford it. And then when they can't pay, we throw them out on the street. And then when there are riots that happen, then whole economies fall. Now, it's going to take a while for Baltimore to recover from this, because just like in '68, when the riots happened, it took years for those cities that were affected by riots to recover, because that affected the economy.
All right,
businesses left.
Walter, here's a question I have for you. You don't know a lot about me, but 1 week from this Sunday, I will celebrate 5 years of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have been able to do that without Jesus.
Exactly.
And one of the things that he taught me, he literally came to life in my life and taught me about the resentments that I carried throughout my life and taught me how to forgive. You say the scarring from the past. Couldn't we replace the word scarring with resentments? And therefore, if we just had God back in our public schools, back in the government area,
come on,
where kids were learning about Jesus and forgiveness and love rather than hate and history and resentments.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. It is resentment, and we allowed an atheist woman to usher it out of the school system nationwide. And when you usher it out, you create a vacuum. We brought in witchcraft and all these other things that have gone on. When I was in school, the things on the teacher's desk was the Bible, the flag, and ruler, and yardstick, and we sang hymns and saluted the flag, and we read scripture every morning. Nobody got offended.
Hey, Walter, this is the verse. I'd just add quickly, and I don't want to open another topic, but I would just add a fifth thing to the list, is somehow we need to put an end to the race merchants who basically go around making money and making an industry on this. And somehow we need to get control of the media. One is following the other. Either the race merchants are following the media is following the race merchants. I don't know which, but it needs to be gotten control of, because that's inflaming the situation further.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. And as long as you fan the flames, there's going to be a fire.
All right, David, thank you very much from out in California. I look forward to having both of you on. I love you guys. Walter, you're always welcome on this radio show. You call in anytime. Now, remember, we're going to be 3 to 4 o'clock your time starting Monday. And David will be noon to 1 out there in California starting this coming Monday.
Great to be with you, Mac.
All right, guys, I love you.
It was great being with you.
Yeah, appreciate having you on. Look forward to having on you again.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, for the last time, this is almost completes 5 years on the radio for me with KTIA. And for the last time, we've been in the 3 to 4 o'clock hour. And it has been wonderful to have you folks as an audience. I hope you're able to listen an hour earlier. I hope you're able to listen on the podcast. I hope you're able to catch up with the new radio station that's expanding into Des Moines. And we're going to be a big part of this community. And I, quite frankly, am just so blessed to be a part of it. Been a part of a lot of radio stations in my career. And this one I'm doing for the right reason. Not doing for power or greed or position. I'm doing it because God says we're going to go out and make disciples of all men. And that's what we're trying to do here. Now, as always, I ask you to think of somebody you need to forgive, and tonight forgive them, because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.